Morning decisions. A creamy mocha frappuccino drink? A sweet vanilla? Maybe a smooth caramel or that white chocolate mocha. Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Start your day with bottled Starbucks Frappuccino drinks. Pick up a bottle near you wherever you buy your groceries.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome, my friends, to the Tuesday edition of Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. I am, of course, James Golden. Wherever you are in the world, welcome. I know that we have people in the Bahamas today listening. The Countess of Conspiracy and Tom Bond are in the Bahamas. I just got word that they are tuning in this afternoon, as well as all of you, to the fastest hour in American media. Now, usually when a guy says he's the fastest, it's not a good thing. However, that is not the case here. Our goal is to leave you satiated, looking at all of the events in the news that we can possibly get to. Big story in the news today, of course, remains this business with South Africa. And the liberals are losing their minds. They are totally losing their minds. We have sound from PMSNBC. There's a 5-minute rant. We can't play all of it. It's just too long. But their coverage on it, CNN, the decision to grant asylum to white South Africans, just totally racist and bigoted. If you listen to everything from the left. The Wall Street Journal has a huge article today on that, about a lot of South Afrikaners who it's 59 people, and we are now in day 3 of the overdrive, full panels filled with people, how awful this is. 59 people. During the administration of Joe Biden, 11 million undocumented people poured into America. The same people that today are beside themselves because 59 white people have been admitted into the United States. The same people said not a word of criticism, except political analysis once in a while. Well, you know, this border thing is a problem for Joe Biden. It's a problem. But we had 11 million people pour in to America. These same people did not put together panels for their mainstream television broadcast when American women were raped and killed, in some cases, by some of these illegal immigrants into the United States. In fact, what they did when they were forced to talk about it, because some of their guests would bring it up, is just say, well, you're painting all the immigrants with a broad brush. And certainly, by the way, I don't think that all 11 million who came in were dangerous criminals. And many, of course, you could have sympathy for their plight. But the fact remains that it was against the law, which they would never acknowledge. In fact, we have Democrats today, including members of the clergy, apparently, that are hanging out at Delaney Hall in Newark, New Jersey. 18, cut 18. This is one of the scenes that people this is from outside Delaney Hall, with Democrats, members of the clergy, leftists. They are blocking, in some cases, emergency vehicles like ambulances from coming through. They are looking to create a confrontation. This is just what it's one.
How much does it cost? How much does it cost to be a Nazi? A Nazi piece of shit.
because you people are idiots.
People are trying to get through. They're out singing.
Which side are you on, my people? Which side are you on?
Go to 17.
Hey, Jillian. So we've seen at least 2 ambulances try to pull into this ICE detention facility here in Newark, New Jersey. One was right here through these, and they turned that ambulance away. Why? Because if they open up these gates all the way, like they did on Friday, then they're afraid people are rushed through. So right now you're looking at a group of people who have been out here for a few hours that are kind of blocking the gates. They're saying they're not going to allow anybody back in. These are clergy members who are trying to stick up for their kids inside of this ICE detention facility.
Now, this whole South African thing, yesterday we played, and we will play in the future, one of the leaders, and when political leader, he was a member of parliament. He is holding huge rallies, stadium full of people, and that would be the leader, Julius Malema, who is just basically was leading a chant about killing the whites in South Africa. We played it yesterday, 25. We played it yesterday, and we'll play it again for you briefly right now.
Shoot to kill.
Shoot to kill.
Kill the poor.
Kill the boa.
Kill the poor.
Kill the boa. Farmer.
Attention.
And the president of South Africa, by the way, they're going to be here and they're going to be in Washington, D.C. meeting with Trump, I believe, next week or the week after. They're saying, well, no, that's not really what's going on here. And you're getting multiple reports out of South Africa about how truly bad it is. Conditions there. What we do know and what we have known for decades is that there are major problems in South Africa concerning crime, concerning equity, and some other equity. Boy, James Carville wouldn't like that. He's on a tear today about the way the Democrats use language. But there are some issues there that are deep issues that are endemic of the system of apartheid that South Africa, of course, had as their states. It's like the Democrats here. They did it in South Africa, too. So since we're on this, let's just visit some of this business. I mentioned there's a CNN segment, Cut 5, and we'll just start going through some of these in South Africa. Just Cut 5. Let's just
virtually halted refugee admission in America for people fleeing war and famine in places like
this is PMSNBC.
The Democratic Republic of Congo. Back with Rick, Mark, and Eddie. Rick Stingham.
Yes, it's so deeply and morally wrong-headed and repulsive. These are the descendants of the people who created the most diabolical system of white supremacy in human history, apartheid. They're not directly...
Hold it right there. Just pause it right there. The most diabolical system of white supremacy in history. Apparently, this guy doesn't think that what happened with black people being enslaved in countries all around the world was as diabolical as what happened in South Africa. I'm just saying, historically. But the most diabolical system, really, chattel slavery was the most diabolical system that oppressed black people around the earth. But let's just pick him up, complaining about...
But it was a system that actually moved black people off of the arable land. So they inherited the land that the black people had to give up. It was called forced removal. It was something called a Bantustan policy, where they moved black people out of the cities and farmlands into these remote areas with non-arable land. I mean, it was just one of the most worst processes ever. But what has happened in this strange, bizarre world we're living in is that the Afrikaners have become the darling of these right-wing white supremacist movements around the world, that it's like the lost cause for them. It's like the old Confederacy. They're held up as these white Christians who are being dispossessed of their land. It's like this is a modern replacement theory in a country where, by the way, white people make up 7% of the population and own 78% of the farmland. So it's actually, there's no injustice here. As you mentioned, it's taking places away from refugees who are really being crushed by authoritarian governments and military governments for these folks who have never had anything happen to them. I mean, Trump amazingly called it a genocide, one of the worst lies I've ever heard him say.
Let's switch the channel and go to CNN Cut 7. Let's just turn the channel and just plug into what's happening on CNN. Anderson Cooper.
Also, the U.S. actually cut off its economic assistance to South Africa over this as well. So it's not just not letting black South Africans in or other people from other parts of the continent. There's now a cutoff of aid for HIV medication. I think South Africa gets about 17% of their of the money that they use for HIV treatment in South Africa comes from the U.S.
And that, as you know, has happened across the continent, that there are kids dying right now across the African continent because they can't get emergency food aid, which costs maybe $70 to save a child's life, because they can't get AIDS medication, which costs 12 cents a day. We can't afford that, but we were willing, America was, to provide a plane to bring 49 Afrikaners, white privileged Afrikaners, to the United States and give them expedited refugee status, when meanwhile there are 12,000 other people who have already been approved and gone through a multi-year screening. And
so that's what's happening with Anderson Cooper. United States not funding AIDS healthcare in South Africa, which happens to be, in terms of resources, one of the wealthiest resource nations on the planet. By the way, the European Union, what are they doing about it? What are our friends over in Europe doing? Why the United States? You mean to tell me these people find billions of dollars to spend on everything that the left I'm talking about? They can find billions of dollars to spend on whatever they want to spend billions of dollars on. They can find billions of dollars to spend in every election cycle you name on any candidate that they want. They can find billions of dollars to spend on every left-wing cause, whether it's climate, whether it's this, that, and the other. And these same people can't pony up enough money to help $70 to save a life if it's that important. And I believe it should be that important. But there's a lot going on in this story. There's a lot going on. And then you have the other side, Cut 6, Seth Moulton and Sarah Snyder on CNN. And this is what their take was.
There's not a genocide in South Africa.
That's right.
And we have a refugee program.
I am sure there's been violence against one side or the other.
There has been violence. Hold on a second. I want to make a point. Violence does not equal genocide. So we need to be really, really clear about that. Because if you look at the violence,
dead guy, you may not say that.
No, I would say that, actually. Because if you look at what genocide is, it is very specific that you're trying to get rid of a people, a whole group of people. There is violence in South Africa. They've had a very big uptick in violence. But black people have seen the brunt of that violence.
Okay. All right, we got to take a break. Before we do that, we don't have time. I'm going to leave some time on the other side because there's more to this. There was a complaint, and we'll play this when we get back, about the ANC, how the ANC are a bunch of commies, and there's that and the other. And there's something I want to say about that.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Going to the gym can be discouraging, especially if you're putting in the work but barely seeing changes. But with Tonal, you can actually see your progress with every workout. Tonal provides the convenience of a full gym and the expertise of a personal trainer anytime at home with one sleek system. Designed to reduce your mental load, Tonal is the ultimate strength training system, helping you focus less on workout planning and more on getting results. No more second-guessing your technique. Tonal gives you real-time coaching cues to dial in your form and help you lift safely safely and effectively. After a quick assessment, Tonal sets the optimal weight for every move and adjusts in 1 pound increments as you get stronger, so you're always challenged. Tonal lets you choose from a variety of expert-led workouts, from strength to aero hit to yoga and mobility, to keep you coming back for more. For a limited time, go to Tonal.com to get $500 off your Tonal purchase, plus a free 4-year warranty. That's Tonal.com for $500 off, plus a free 4-year warranty. Tonal.com. If your brain is at full capacity with to-dos, birthdays, dinner plans, meet Skylight Calendar. It syncs your entire family's schedule onto a sleek digital display, so you focus on important things, like where you left your coffee. Right now, Skylight is offering our listeners $30 off their 15-inch calendars by going to skylightcal.com/talk. Go to skylightcal.com/talk for $30 off your 15-inch calendar. That's skylightcal.com/talk.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
James Golden, Snerdley. Look, there are some issues that I have here, and I want to kind of make way because there's some other stuff I want to get to in the show today, not spend all day on this South African issue. Although I want to talk about this in depth, and I'm still learning about it. One of the big issues in South Africa is that blacks were thrown off the land. White Afrikaners are 7% of the population. They hold 73% of all of the farmland in South Africa. And blacks were removed from owning land without compensation. This is a historical problem that's got to be done. Also, we have a lot of Americans over here, including a lot of conservatives, the ANC. They're communists. They're communists. They're communists. Well, I got news for you. Back in the day, both Democrat and Republican Americans refused to come to the aid of the ANC. The Russian, at the time, the Soviets did. Okay? And so, yes, they have communist ties. The United States refused to help their cause. We'll be back. Do not go away.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
ChatGPT Plus is free for college students through May. Here's the thing. You've got a lot to do between now and then. Studying for finals, writing papers, trying to keep your life on track, and ChatGPT can help with all of it. It can quiz you for your econ exam, make a study guide from your French notes, plan out your meals and study breaks. It can get really specific on how you like to learn. It can even help you come up with ways to stop procrastinating. So from now until summer break, take advantage of all the ways ChatGPT can make your life easier. Restrictions apply.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
I never thought that this would happen in my lifetime. I have a couple of kids who are Democrats, are big Bernie Sanders fans. And when I told them that this was going to happen, they had tears in their eyes because they thought this is never going to happen in our lifetime. And we finally have a president who's willing to stand up for the American people. Thank you. And Dr. Oz.
With us, ladies and gentlemen, we are so pleased to have our dear friend and a knowledge base like very few others in the world, Dr. Peter Mickelson. You heard RFK. We talked about it very briefly yesterday, and I asked him, could he come on today and explain the significance of what is happening with these drug prices with the Donald Trump executive order linking trade tariffs to prescription drugs. And Trump lambasted the European Union for pressuring the pharmaceutical companies to have lower prices at the expense of Americans. This all came, some of it came as a revelation to me, some not. He talked about the price of medicines over in Europe compared to what we have here. Dr. McLaughlin, thank you so much for taking time to join us. What can you tell us about these events that have taken place over the last 48 hours now?
Well, the first thing we have to do, James, is put this in a historical perspective. because historically, price controls result in shortages. In 1993, the Clinton Child Immunization Act had good intentions, and they told the pharmaceutical companies that you can only charge $20 for a vaccine, and they said it cost us $21 to make it. And then they forced them into purchasing and selling vaccines to the government. They bought half the vaccine supply at a fixed price. And guess what happened? Pharmaceutical companies and vaccine companies stopped making vaccines in the United States. And that's the reason we got caught with our pants down right before the pandemic, because we didn't have people to manufacture vaccines and put out mass production of vaccines. So that's an example in history what happened. We ended up reversing those policies because we realized if you tell somebody, a diner, you're going to charge $5 for the hamburger, and you say, well, it cost me $5.50 to make it, then they say, you know what, we're not going to do it anymore. So we have to be very careful. It's very important to understand that, yes, U.S. profits have long funded the pharmaceutical innovations that benefit the rest of the world. You know, we're the ones who spend the money on research, development, the patents, and it costs minimum $200 million to take one medicine through the FDA and make a profit. So 10 products might go through the process, only one might make it. So that's why we have to be very careful to balance this out and still incentivize the pharmacy. The other thing nobody talks about, each one of our pills in the U.S. has a built-in price for lawsuits. All night on TV, we have advertisements. Were you injured by a doctor? Were you injured by this medicine? And we have lawsuit after lawsuit, and they're paying out billions in lawsuits. So in the U.S., each pill price, it's built into each price of each pill that we have to deal with. Also, the lack of tort reform in this country. If you do that in Europe, loser pays. There aren't that many lawyers or lawsuits, so nobody talks about that aspect, that we have to take the legal burden as well. Then there's another factor called a middleman, called a pharmacy benefit manager, which they're talking about today in Congress. And that middleman actually controls the prices and the relationship between insurance companies, hospitals, and patients. So one of the things that may come out of this is direct manufacturer to patient. That may save a lot of money, taking out this whole middleman out of the way. And the other thing is that they also deal with they're going to target now the deals that manufacturers make when their patent is about to expire to release a new, cheaper alternative a lot slower. So there's a lot of behind the stuff deals that have to be worked out, but we have to be very careful because we attack the pharma, but we want them also to make money, so they spend the money on the latest and greatest new medications that are coming out from the United States. When was the last great innovation you heard coming out of the EU or from Canada or from South America or from the Middle East? No, it's here that the innovation, and people, when they purchase stock and they're investing in American companies, we're creating all this stuff. So we have to find a happy middle ground. If we do it too fast, too hard, we're going to see, they estimate, a 60% reduction in investment in new research and development. So I think, yes, we definitely should start off slow, like essential medicines, blood pressure medicines, psychiatric medicines, insulin, diabetes medicines. Those definitely can be controlled. And that's why I know I've had many patients over the years. They go once a year and drive up to Canada and they buy their 1 year supply. They bring in a prescription from America, they fill up, or they drive over the border to Mexico and they buy it for sometimes 10 times less for their basic needs and basic medication. So that's why it's a little bit more complicated. I think the goal is great. I think the ideas are great. And also, once we make America healthy again and we cut out all the sugar, high fructose corn syrup, and dyes, guess what? We won't even need to take as many medicines, because a lot of the reasons we have to take all these medicines is because of our diet, processed foods, and the way we're eating, which is also being managed as well, too, in this new administration. So a lot of positive things, but we have to be careful, study history. Price controls result in shortages, and it has to be done in a very careful, methodical way, giving incentives, tax breaks to pharma so that they continue to do the amazing research that we do in this country, creating all these new cancer drugs and cancer vaccines that we're seeing occurring right now, and these miraculous things, even these genetic splicing called CRISPR, where kids, for example, in the African American community that suffer from sickle cell, that they're now have successfully treated some people by splicing the gene for sickle cell and actually curing that disease. So we need those profits and that money to go into this amazing technology that's going to be life-changing for many people suffering from many genetic diseases.
Wow. That is a lot to digest, but I'm glad you've put some perspective on all of this. Let me just ask you a real simple question. Overall, do you think that this administration is headed in the right direction when it comes to change and reforming America's healthcare delivery system and putting emphasis on the poisons in the food?
Oh, absolutely. I think that we have to start off because it all starts out with what enters our mouth. And if we can change our diet and some of the ingredients, and we just have to look at our EU neighbors, that a French fry has salt, potato, and oil. Our French fries here have about 20 preservatives, including some formalin-like compounds to preserve them so they last longer. And that's all disrupting our gut microbiome. So, yes, that they're definitely moving in the right direction. And I think also people have to understand the history of Obamacare, that there have to be some things readjusted. Obamacare had very good intentions. The problem is it's a card without much care, because what they did was they made these $5,000 deductibles, so all these young people went into collections. They turned the doctor's office into a collection agency because nobody met their deductible. And that's why you don't see the private doctor, the family doctor down the block, because they can no longer work for $17 or $20 a visit. And again, nobody talks about the tort reform. A neurosurgeon on Long Island, for example, pays $290,000 a year for malpractice insurance, or $180,000 to deliver a baby. So we're not seeing the mom and pop doctors, and we're seeing these mass organizations where these big systems are buying up all the practices. And that was another example of how price controls are resulting in shortages. Try to get an appointment now with your primary care. In the old days,
it's ridiculous. And they don't mind telling you when you call, doctor, they don't mind telling you when you call for an appointment, well, we can see you in 2 months. We can see you in 3 months.
Right.
It's just become standard.
Salaried employees, and they are given a slot. They have to see 20 or 30 people a day or be fired. In those 5 minutes, most of our audience, they can call in and tell us their last time their doctor, when they went in for a physical, did they feel their abdomen, examine them, do a blood pressure test, listen to their heart, examine their ears, eyes, and nose. They might be all documented on the chart, but good luck getting a complete physical. And also, they're putting all these paraprofessionals, which are very nice people, nurse practitioners and PAs, in these big chain stores and these urgent care centers. And and they basically have all the power a physician has. And I personally have seen, many, missed diagnoses, because you're putting people who just don't have the years of training, years of experience. Some of them are excellent, but there's a lot of system error right now that has to be recalibrated so that we give people the best care. But I think the best thing the administration is doing is by resetting our food, our supplements, our vitamins, and how we treat our bodies, and making us healthy again through what we put in our mouths is going to result in trillions of dollars in savings over the years.
Wow. Well, look, Doctor, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to invite you to join us on the Saturday show when we can spend at least a half an hour with you, because it is every time I speak with you, I just learn so much. And I'm sure I'm just echoing what our vast and ever-growing audience thinks. We learned so much from you. We appreciate you so much. And thank you for spending this time with us.
Thanks for always getting the truth out, James. And your show is amazing and informative.
Thank you. That's Dr. Peter Miklas, folks. We're going to have him back on the Saturday show. James Golden, we're going to take a quick glance at some of the other headlines in here. There's a huge story, folks, that I want to spend time with, and we will over the next few days, and that is what is in Donald Trump and the Republicans' giant immigration and tax bill. And we'll be covering all of that. James Golden, Snerdley, the fastest hour in American media continues.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Jake Tapper, CNN, is peddling a new book.
The bottom line is the White House was lying, not only to the press, not only to the public, but they were lying to members of their own cabinet. They were lying to White House staffers. They were lying to Democratic members of Congress, to donors about how bad things had gotten. And in fact, Alex and I started writing this book after the election of 2024, and we spoke with more than 200 people, most of whom, almost all of whom, were Democrats, and almost all of whom wouldn't be honest with us or wouldn't be candid with us until after the election. And then after the election, we found out all of these things that when you looked at what was going on with President Biden at the time, it probably doesn't surprise you the extent to which he was deteriorating. But now we have anecdotes and facts about what was really going on behind the scenes with details that Democrats wouldn't share with us until after Election Day.
So Jake didn't know. They didn't know because Democrats were lying to them that Joe Biden was bad off. James Golden, Snerdley. So you heard Jake Tapper there. We didn't know they were lying to us. Let's visit Jake Tapper back during the campaign season with Laura Trump.
Every time he comes on stage and they turn to him, I'm like, Joe, can you get it out? Let's get the words out, Joe. You kind of feel bad for him.
How do you think it makes little kids with stutters feel when they see you make a comment like that?
First and foremost, I had no idea that Joe Biden ever suffered from a stutter. I think what we see on stage with Joe Biden, Jake, is very clearly a cognitive decline.
Okay.
That's what I'm referring to. It makes me uncomfortable
you are
to watch somebody on stage
it's so amazing. It's so amazing to me that
try and figure out an answer.
A cognitive decline.
Well, when you're trying to tell me that what I was suggesting was
I think that you were mocking his stutter.
Yeah,
I think you were mocking his stutter, and I think you have absolutely no standing to diagnose somebody's cognitive decline. I would think that somebody in the Trump family would be more sensitive to people who do not have medical licenses diagnosing politicians from afar. Plenty of people have diagnosed your father from afar, and I'm sure it offends you. Your father-in-law from afar. I'm sure it offends you. You don't have any standing to say.
I'm not diagnosing him. What I'm saying, Jake,
you just talked
is
about
that
a cognitive decline.
That Joe Biden
I have
is
one last
struggling
question for you, Laura. You can't
times on stage, and it's very concerning to a lot of people that this could be the leader of the free world.
Okay.
That is all I'm saying. I genuinely feel
Laura
sorry
Trump.
for Joe Biden.
I appreciate it. I'm sure.
Yeah, so there you go. Jake Tapper, who was castigating anybody that mentioned cognitive decline. And this happened all throughout the campaign. It happened all throughout his entire presidency. All of a sudden, here's old Jake Tapper writing a book about the cognitive. He's cashing in. Lady Benedict has a great question. So is Jake Tapper lying about lying or telling the truth about having lied? And that's the question, Jake. You're telling the truth now about having lied? You guys didn't want to hear it. You guys castigated anybody, and now he's out making money on poor old Joe Biden's decline. Okay, before we leave here today, folks, and we'll be delving more of this, what's in Trump and the Republicans' giant tax and immigration bill? This is the legislation that's come up now. Let me just give you a few of the sub-headlines in it. Extended 2017 tax cuts. Increase the standard deduction that people are able to take. Now, they say cuts in Medicaid, and that's the way that they're going to frame this whole thing. To meet budget goals, Republicans plan to cut Medicaid spending, strip coverage. It could strip coverage from 8.7 million people and lead to 7.6 million more uninsured people. What they're not telling you is that these are people that were added on by Democrats in really fraudulent ways. We'll get into that. They want to make states pay for more of the SNAP costs. That's food stamp costs. Increase the child credit. A border wall. No tax on tips is in there. No tax on your overtime is in there. No tax on car loan interest in there. A bonus for seniors. Now, what's not in there is a no tax on Social Security, but they want to give everybody over 65 a $4,000 standard deduction, which is a tax cut. Stevie won his birthday today, so we're going to leave you with one of our all-time favorites from Stevie. Stevie's 75 today, born in 1950. May God bless, protect each and every single one of you, your families, your loved ones. Love and gratitude, my friends, for your being here with me and allowing me to be with you. God willing, we are back tomorrow, and we will be discussing, if we are here, the rest of what's in this tax bill. I'm always saying, God willing, we never know what happens. So hopefully we will all be back tomorrow. My friends, this world could use some love. You see all this stuff going on in South Africa now, this big debate. I have mixed feelings about South Africa. I always have. And the government there is failing its people. And they have been failing its people ever since the end of apartheid. Anyway, we will get into all of that and more. If we are here tomorrow, God willing, we will be here, and hope you are here too. In the meantime, my friends, as I said earlier, have a great day. I bid you adieu. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. You can hear Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour weekdays at 4 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?